Hi, I'm STL wine girl Angela Ortmann, and I just wrapped up a podcast with STL Bucket List. Tune in to not only hear about my journey, but also how you can help raise money for Domestic Violence Awareness Month at lovetoeat.eattolove.com. Thank you so much. I look forward for you guys listening in.
Welcome back to the St. Louis Bucket List Show. I'm your host, Marissa Farrell.
And I'm your other host, Luke Farrell, and we're recording another episode right here at Half Coast Studios. My guy Matt on the back with the ones and twos, cutting up an amazing episode for us to share with you guys each and every other week. And also our friends over at the Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis. They're the largest public funder of arts and art programs in St. Louis, and they allow us to highlight everything great about our city and to show that St. Louis is an arts town.
Absolutely. Okay. I guess I'll introduce our host today, who you might know under the name of the STL Wine Girl, but instead we're going to call her Angela Ortmann. And so welcome to the show.
Thanks for coming in.
So I guess we'll just get started how we normally start. We just ask guests about their upbringing. Like, I'm not even sure. Like, are you from St. Louis in the area or?
Yeah. I mean, I was raised in St. Charles.
Okay.
So
that's where we're from.
Depending on who you ask in St. Louis, does that count or not count?
It counts.
But my parents grew up in South City, so very St. Louis upbringing, spent a lot of time in the city and doing all those things. So my family still resides out there. I moved away for a while and then came back because, St. Louis always brings you back. Always. So everybody who leaves sometimes ends up back here. So, yeah. but I love it here, and I don't know. It's such an interesting town to be back in, and especially with what I do.
How long have you been back?
Oh, I've been back like
years.
Yeah, years. Because
okay.
I mean, gosh, my business is almost 14 years, and I started that like right when I came back. So it's been a while.
That's like 2008?
2009. February 2009 is when I started STL
I
Wine
read
Girl.
that, and then I was looking at your pictures, and I was like, you don't even look like old enough to have a business.
I'm very old.
That's so crazy to me. That's amazing. 2009, yeah. So tell us something that we don't know about you, because we're about to get into a bunch of stuff that we're going to learn about you, and that we're, so just tell us something people don't know.
I don't know. I'm a pretty open book, so I feel like I've told a lot of stories. I think something people don't know about me is it has to do with my business, but I actually, part of the reason I started my business and what dictates a lot of my daily life is I actually suffer from a few chronic illnesses. I have a daily chronic migraine. So the fact that my life is so social and I'm out and about and everything, people don't always realize that that's something that, I'm dealing with too. And I think that it's always good to share that, because it's like you can do things that you love and everything despite some of the challenges that might have come your way. And so I have had a headache every day of my life since I was 16.
Oh my goodness.
You just keep going and going. And
for everybody who's going to say, maybe it's the wine. It's not the wine.
You're like, the wine helps actually.
Yeah, all the foods and everything have been checked.
Oh my gosh. So Angela, you're really a Jill of all trades, we would say. So tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial
journey.
Help me. Yes, your journey there.
So it's a little bit of a longer story, but I always worked in restaurants when I was in school, high school and college. It's the best money for, what you're doing. And I went to Mizzou. And then when I was finished there and I came back to St. Louis, I was like, I'm not quite ready to be here. And so I ended up moving out to San Francisco to go to architectural design school, because I actually wanted to like spatially plan and design restaurants, because it was always like crazy to me that you work in a restaurant and like the ice bin is 25 feet away from the soda machine, and that, like just a lot of things didn't always make sense and then wasn't aesthetically pleasing. So again, while I was out there, was working in, the jobs were going to be to work in restaurants. And at 21 years old, I'm like, oh, this is like a whole different world than the Midwest of like, meat and potatoes and chain restaurants. And I just fell in love with this whole like food and wine, community, and really learning where my food came from, and like being on fishing boats and going and harvesting mushrooms and stuff like that. So started working in very high-end restaurants there, and ended up having a couple of owners and chefs kind of notice I kind of took a knack to wine, especially food and wine pairing. So they offered me the opportunity to study to become a sommelier, because becoming a sommelier is very like self-study. And so I was like, I mean, okay. And I just get to like taste all the wines and learn about it. And, little did I know that it takes up, you learn so much about history and geography and climate. And I was like, well, I don't want to really know about soil type that much. But, it ends up being extremely interesting and fun. And then, life took a couple of turns and I admittedly moved back to St. Louis kicking and screaming. I was like, what am I going to do there? I had spent so much time in San Francisco, a little bit of time in New York, and just didn't think I would come back here. But actually, I now say I happily put my foot in my mouth, because I ended up being able to come back to this town that was like really starting to find itself as a food community. And to be part of that, it was kind of like going from like a small fish in a big pond to like kind of a bigger fish in a small pond, because of what I had already accomplished. And so then I started a blog in the middle of the night after maybe a bottle or two of wine that I was trying to share with my coastal friends of what it was like to be in the wine life here, because it didn't occur to me that all of the wine I had access to on the coast, you don't have access to all that here, especially not 15 years ago. And so I started writing about that, and then people started reading it and contacting me to do events. And then before I knew it, I was like, oh, I guess I kind of accidentally started a business here.
That's amazing. So your business name is STL Wine Girl, but you also are into marketing and other aspects, consulting. So kind of tell us like what, for those that don't know, like STL Wine Girl, like what all does that?
So it started with like the wine stuff, and I would do a lot of like in-home tastings and such. And then I started teaching for local wine shops and things like that. And then this is going to date me quite a bit, but like, this is like right when Twitter is starting. This is right when like Facebook is like, oh, your business can have a page and things like that. And I didn't have startup capital. I wasn't planning to even start a business. So I was like, okay, I'll use these platforms to get my name out. And it worked very well for me. And then as my restaurant friends and such started to realize that they maybe needed to do that too, they were like, I need you to teach me. And so I started like trying to help people. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, wait, I could just do this for you. And I know food. I know the whole business. I'm at your restaurant all the time anyway. Like I can take care of this. So my business, what it looks like now, isn't really what it looked like, 15 years ago. But I think that's what works for me, is that everything is very like evolving. So I kind of joke to people when they ask what I do. I say I get paid to eat, drink, and talk, because I do everything from like writing for magazines. I write content for different marketing and meeting agencies. I do social media. I do classes. I do dinners. When a restaurant in town needs a sommelier on the floor, I show up and sell wine. I kind of do a little bit of everything. So it's hard to narrow that down into a business card of words.
Right. And like your network here is just so strong now with being in the industry for the last 14, especially just in St. Louis specifically. So I have just a quick off-brand question, but like, so wine, does cheap wine or expensive wine, like, does that even matter? Like to an extent, like, is there like, how much is your favorite bottle of wine? How much does that cost?
Oh, I would be in trouble with like all of my winemaker friends if I chose a favorite bottle of wine. No, I mean, it does matter to an extent, because there are just certain things that cost money to do, or certain, styles of grapes or where you're growing them. Price point with wine can get crazy, because it's I often tell people, it's like if you were just to like work with an architect to build your dream house, but if you built that dream house in Ladue, how much would it cost? If you built that dream house in like Troy, how much would it cost? Right. So there are some factors that do raise prices. Do I think that something being expensive always means it's great quality? No. Do I think just because something is not that expensive, it's not going to be good? Absolutely not. Because my focal point is really getting people to learn to enjoy wine as like an everyday not every day, but your at home drinks, not just special occasion. And for that, the majority of us it's going to be $12 to $20 bottles. If you think I'm at home drinking like $100, $150 bottles every night, that is incorrect. But I mean, if somebody wants to do that for me, that'd be great. But like, that's not reality. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of great wine, under 20, under 25. There's a lot of great wine higher than that. Yeah. There's also a lot of wine that's marked at really high prices that if it wasn't from where it was from or had the like history or something of the popularity of the brand or something like that, it might not be that much.
Okay. That's a good question. Because I mean, let's be honest, we buy a lot of $12 wines. Yeah, like when we first started off living together, we were getting our winking out from Aldi brand. That's nice.
I understand.
$3. And we were like, this is doing it. It's fine. Yeah. Now we're on to like, Dark Horse or Josh. And that's like,
stepping up.
Yeah, stepping it up. So tell us about the process of getting that. Is it a license or certificate to become
It's a certification.
Okay,
yeah. So there are multiple organizations that offer different versions of a certification for sommelier. It's always an interesting topic because technically the word sommelier has been around forever and it means a wine steward. The idea of a sommelier is really someone who runs the wine program of a restaurant and helps guests pick out wines. Obviously now there are certifications from certain organizations in order to kind of deem certain levels of that. So in one sense, it's a self-study thing. And if that is your job, because I know people before these certifications were out, I know people who've been running wine programs for 30 years and have never sat for a test, but I would never not call them a sommelier because they know more than me no matter how many tests I take. But then there are also people who have taken a lot of the tests, but never actually like run a wine program or,
Right.
So and then like when the documentary came out, the Somm documentary on Netflix, that really changed.
I think we watched.
Yeah, I think
there's now a few of them, but
there was a movie about it. There was like some movie on Netflix about it.
Yeah, there's multiple different things, but when the first one, it's actually like a group of my friends, and this is way back, and they were telling me that they had guys filming them and sleeping on their floor, and because they were studying for the master sommelier, which the master sommelier exam is like the highest level. And it's like got like a 3% pass rate. It's insanity to pass that. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Why are you letting these people? And then it came out and became like #1 on Netflix. And I was like, oh, you're all right. Yeah, that was a great business move there.
Right.
But then it was so cool because it gave legitimacy to what we do. Because especially in the Midwest and such that don't have these like crazy high-end restaurants all the time, you're kind of like, so you just drink every day. And you're like, well, I mean, like sometimes, but not like that.
Right.
I have a real job. It is a real thing. And but then also it made everyone think that all of us that were sommeliers were going for that master sommelier. And I was like, oh, no. Like that is.
We're not trying to,
Yeah, that's.
lose our minds.
It's a complete commitment of for some people 5 to 10 years. And it's no joke.
Wild.
But yeah.
Wow.
My
goodness. So when you were living in California, did you stop in to Napa ever and just explore?
Yes.
That's like that's our next trip because we just left New York and that was our first time there. Next trip is Napa, and I'm like, I just want to drink all the wines and learn a little bit more about
absolutely
the grapes.
You'll have to let me know, and I'll hook you up with some places to go. But no, because living in San Francisco and working in the restaurant industry, we either socially we're taking road trips up there all the time because it's only like an hour plus to get up there, and we would even be going with our restaurants and chefs and things like that. So I've spent quite a bit of time in Napa and Sonoma, and I still try to get back there as often as possible to visit. And
nice.
There's a lot of wine regions in the world I haven't been to yet, but I still go back there all the time.
I love it.
So on like the hospitality industry, like you've been in it since you were a kid.
Yeah, since I was like 15.
Yeah.
What was your first job?
I was a car hop at Sonic.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
That's amazing.
I actually made like crazy money because you get tips.
Yeah.
And so like and again, dating myself, but like minimum wage when I was like 15, 16 was like $4, right? And then, but like on a Saturday, I'd make like $100 in tips. And like when you're 15, that is so much money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so, yes, I wore the roller skates on occasion. It wasn't every day, but.
Wow. And that was in St. Charles?
Yes.
Sonic?
It
Wow,
was.
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Yep.
I used to go to Sonic in Chesterfield for the car shows because they used to do the car shows at the one in
that's right.
Chesterfield.
We
so-
still go to Sonic and get a little limeade.
Oh, the limeade
Oh, the
slush.
cherry limeade thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Best.
Great restaurant.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go
Oh, no,
ahead.
you're good. So you've been in the hospitality industry from Sonic to these amazing restaurants in San Francisco, New York, and then obviously in St. Louis, we have a lot of really great chefs here, a lot of amazing programs. So just tell me like what you love about the hospitality industry and like why it means so much to you.
For me, we kind of joke that anybody who's in this business, you're kind of like a glutton for punishment, right? Like it's chaotic, it's insane. You never know when somebody's going to be so happy or possibly upset. But for me, it's making people happy. It's helping people discover new things. Like, you know, when I get to like pair a wine with a dish that somebody, you know, thinks I'm never going to like this wine, but then I'm like, okay, you might not like it by itself, but like, let me pour it with this dish. And like just watching people like experience that and discover things. And a lot of hospitality is like people celebrating things. And there's just, for me, I just really just love being in the thick of all of that. I'm also just constantly curious when it comes to food and drink, and so like I want to taste everything all the time. And I also kind of, even with the part of my business that's more like business to business, I even consider that like hospitality to my fellow restaurant friends, because I feel like I'm helping them do that same thing. Instead of being on the floor with them doing it, I'm helping them do it like online or in media and things like that. So I don't know, I'm just obsessed with like finding ways to make people happy or discover new things, because we all have hard stuff in our life, and like those pockets of joy are kind of like what I live for. And being able to like bring those to other people is just, I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. So
Inspiring answer.
I mean, we love to eat, so
Yeah.
and it's
right, and that's the great sidekick, right? Like I get to go to all these restaurants and taste all of these foods, and literally when they're like working on new menus, I'm like, I'd be happy to come in and hang out.
I'll
and
try
taste
anything
things. Yeah.
for you.
And we do the similar stuff. So like I'm in marketing as well. And that's kind of how we built STL Bucket List, is through digital social media marketing. And that was completely organic. But we do a lot of paid ads for businesses. But I used to be just in construction. But since STL Bucket List has been getting bigger, we've been finding ourselves in the hospitality industry more. So like, for instance, we're working with Ben Perimbo right now, opening his new restaurant in Clayton. Yeah. So we were just over there, all the pictures and videos you saw.
Oh, I'm obviously.
Well, the wait list, when this episode comes out, I think the reservations will be open, but we'll make sure I'll get you on so that you can come in.
She's like,
you can come in with
I'll
us.
be like, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come in. And his beverage director is like over in some country. I forgot where they were, but they were like studying different wines to bring back. From Spain. I think they're in Spain because it's a Spanish restaurant.
Yeah, the tapas and such. Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
So like people out here are sending people, like even like Katie's Pizza send her chef out to it. Like people are like sending their staff to these places, and
like that. I mean, St. Louis has become a legitimate food destination. Like it still is a little bit unknown, but I mean, that's one of my favorite things is my friends from all over. I'm like, come visit me here. I know it seems like, why would I go there? And then they're always just blown away with not only our food scene, but just what happens here in St. Louis. Because, you know, I have a hashtag I use all the time. It says flyover city my ass. Because I'm always like, no, there's cool stuff happening here. Right. And there's really talented chefs. And we're even attracting chefs from all over who have decided to come here to start their businesses. And it's, you know, we're watching even more people, travel to experience more. We're having, I mean, Casa Don Alfonso in the Ritz-Carlton is, you know, a sister restaurant to Don Alfonso in Sorrento, which is a 2 Michelin star restaurant in Italy. And you're like, their first U.S. location, they picked St. Louis. And I think that's incredible.
It's huge. It says so much. I'm so excited to see where it goes because like we love to eat, and like anytime there is an opening, like and we get to go and explore that, that's the best. And then we're telling all of our friends. But like even in New York, we just ate at our first Michelin star restaurant.
Oh, nice.
It was like a 9-course dinner, and like it was phenomenal. And then they're like, "Where are you from?" And we're like, "St. Louis." They're like, "Missouri?" Like, you know, like they question it. And I'm like, "Put us on the map. Put us on the map. We'll get there."
But yeah, that's great. And like I love working in the hospitality industry for that reason, because like it is love, and you know, and then like you're, even if it's just taking a picture of something as small as like a dessert item and like what goes into making that and then putting it on social media and seeing all these people share it. And like, it's just so fun. And with STL Bucket List, we've been just so blessed to be able to go to all these openings. Like they just invite us and it's amazing. And we're like, okay, dinner, like the grand opening, like, okay, yeah. And then we just post it on social media and it helps them.
And I think and that's what, like, again, what puts St. Louis a little bit different is one of the things I always say why I love being back here too is the actual like community of chefs and restaurateurs and bartenders, sommeliers, all that is unlike any other city that I've ever worked in or worked with or have friends in. A lot of cities are very cutthroat when it comes to the restaurant industry. You don't share secrets. You don't, you
help
you're,
each other.
you might be friends and you see each other out and you're friends, but when it comes to business, that's all separate. Mm-hmm. And here it is the most like collaborative and like supportive community. Like I tell chefs that move here and such all the time. I'm like, if you were to like run out of cilantro, you could text me and I will have another chef bringing you cilantro within an hour. Like people take care of each other here. And that's just not something that happens in other cities. And I think that that's like, even with the social media, like even when we use the words influencer and things like that, it's not the same as what's happening in a lot of other cities where it's this like love-hate relationship and who deserves what of my time. It's really like just sharing the love and creativity and just supporting each other. And I hope that it continues to stay that way because that's what I think is what makes our city special. Mm-hmm. Like it continues, even just that when people talk about St. Louis just as a city, it's like very, everybody knows somebody here. Like, where'd you go to high school? You always somehow know somebody else from here. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's really cool that our food industry is that way too, even with it's not like everybody that works in the food industry here is from here or anything like that.
Yeah, a lot of collaborating, a lot of like pop-ups, collabs, like different things. And then I see a lot of chefs like eating at other people's restaurants.
And posting about it. And that's what I really love is because share what your other favorite. Like, I mean, that's one of my biggest advice to some of my restaurant clients. I'm like, show the love to your other people in your other places. Like, it doesn't have to be fake. Like, I'm not just saying like retweet people randomly. When you go out and pick up lunch for your staff, where did you go to? Where
share, right?
When you have a night off, where are you?
Mm-hmm.
And they do it, and I love it. It's just you can go and sit at the bar at a restaurant and be like, where else should I eat while I'm in town? And they will give you a list of 10 places. They won't just be like, oh, no, come back here because tomorrow we're going to do this. Or
So going back to 2000, I think 9 is what you said, like with you were studying at Mizzou to architecture, correct? And then so that was what you were thinking at that time. So now like looking back at that and then seeing where you are now, like did that just blow your mind?
So I went to Mizzou for business. I then went to like architecture art school, and then I became a sommelier. And you better believe my dad was like, and what are you going to do? And in all technicality, I am using all of that because like when new restaurants are coming, I often like consult on visuals and layouts and things like that. So I'm like, in all technicality, I am using all of my studies. So it's definitely not where I thought I'd end up. I'm not even sure if at 21 years old, do you even know where you think you're going to end up? But often I sit back and go, am I really getting paid to do this? And people love to ask me, but like, what else do you do? And I'm like, no, this is my whole job. Like, this isn't my side hustle. This is everything. So,
wow.
Yep. I know that for sure. So flash forward 2017, you start another, not really business, but installment like you had mentioned before. So more of like an initiative campaign type thing. So Love to Eat to Love. Tell us what inspired that. What made you start it originally?
Your mission, all of it.
So just like the starting of STL Wine Girl, it's just me and my big mouth. And it was actually right in the time of when the travel ban, when Trump did the travel ban. And I started hearing from a lot of owners of immigrant-owned restaurants here in town that they were seeing like legit backlash and like were being treated poorly. And like, you know what I mean? Like their own places where they've owned restaurants for 20 years, all of a sudden the vibe had changed. And it was really upsetting for me. And so on Facebook, I put up a post, and my post actually was encouraging other owners and chefs to like team up with some of these restaurants and maybe do a collab dish or do something. And then, 200 comments later, everybody's like, Angie, when are we doing this event and everything? And I was like, oh my gosh, that is not at all what I said. But okay. And so the next morning, George Mahey from St. Louis Magazine called me and was like, yeah, I heard about the Facebook last night. And I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, you're doing this. And like, you're going on the radio with me this afternoon. So make some plans today. And I was sitting at my Lee. I look up at Quetran and I'm like, can I throw an event here? And he's like, yeah, when? And I was like 3 weeks from Monday? And he was like, sure. And so then I literally came up with the name and the website and everything that day before I went on the radio. And I had reached out, all these different restaurants and owners who had commented. And then we sold the tickets out in like 11 days. And we had this big, huge Monday night. It was 52 chefs. So they were teamed up. So it was 26 different dishes. And then we had drinks and a raffle and all of this. And it was just beautiful. We raised money for International Institute and some other projects here. Then, I thought it was just going to be an event I did. And then 6-ish months later, the rise of the Me Too movement started happening. And you started seeing all these chefs and owners be exposed for some terrible stuff. And so I decided to, again, put one together it was called Force to Femme. And we had over 100 women involved, whether it be like owners, chefs, bartenders. We used all like women-owned spirits, beers, brewers, distillers, everything. And we put it on at Second Shift Brewery. And I think we had like over 300 people come. And then we raised that money we raised for like St. Louis Women's Fund and like the Rise Collaborative for like empowering young women. And so then in the beginning of COVID, I started like an online GoFundMe to help contribute to those funds for everybody that was losing their job. And then fast forward to now, a few weeks ago, there was obviously an incident in the news regarding a restaurant owner here and some domestic assault allegations. And I was, when stuff like that happens, like my natural thing is like, I'm like, okay, what can I do? How can I do something? And so I'd even said to a couple friends, like, oh, I should do another Love to Eat. And this was like in the first 24 hours of all of us hearing of this and everything. And then I happened to be, I don't know, doing whatever on the computer. And I saw October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I was like, oh,
click.
I got to do it. I got to do it. And it was like
sign.
September, it was like September 22nd or something.
Yeah, I was going to say it just popped.
It was like immediately. And so then I, again, sent out just a Facebook message to all my restaurant connection friends. And it's like, here's my idea. And the idea for this one is instead of doing an event, because everybody's dealing with, labor shortage and high food costs. And we don't all have time to do that right now. My idea was whatever works for your restaurant. It can be a one-day fundraiser. It can be one dish. It can be every Taco Tuesday. It can be, whatever works for your business. And we'll all raise money for local organizations. And they're all doing their own direct donations. They get to pick where their money goes. And then at the end of the month, I'll kind of tally up what everybody did. And it won't be like a list of, oh, this person raised 100 and this person. It'll be as an industry, as a collective, we made a statement against this issue. And this is what we did.
Right.
Because one of the other things that prompted me is I saw a lot of people online being like, why aren't more restaurants talking and speaking out against this? And first of all, it was like in the first day or two. Right. And I was like, everybody else kind of needs to absorb this and process it too.
And be sensitive as well. I think there was a lack of sensitivity there, at least what I was seeing. And I'm like, give it a second. Right.
And we're trying to take into account that, the victim, and then because it's like if every chef in town puts up a Instagram story, Facebook post, like denouncing domestic violence, it's like, well, but of course we do. And then it's like, at what point does that turn and people start saying, oh, you're just virtue signaling so it was just a lot of people didn't know how to be like, this is terrible. And we won't, because again, how I spoke of what this community is like, how do we make a statement against this that we say this is not acceptable in our world. This is not what we're okay with. And we will not sweep this under the rug. So then now we've got well over 100 people on board, and
how fast did that happen?
that happened on the same day. I sent the email out at 8 or 9 a.m. and by that afternoon I was approaching 100.
Wow. That's it seems like everything you do with this is just so quick. Like you have to act fast, because if you would have waited a week and then planned it out, then obviously you could do it in any month, but it just it worked out, it lined up, the stars aligned, and you just had to take action.
And these events always end up happening in reaction to something that's like a timely, crucial issue.
Yeah.
And
does that make it easier?
It does. And that's like who I am as a person. Like I want to put something together and do it. Like I'm not somebody who's going to take 6 months to plan something out. I mean, I do plan things, but we want to be reactive to things that are happening, things that we feel are important to us. And being reactive isn't planning a 6-month event. It's doing something right away and figuring it out as we go. I'm adding new places to the website every single day. And, it's okay that it's that way, right? Because it's more just about we're trying to do stuff, and we, it's not about self-promotion for anybody. It's not about, oh, look what I'm doing. It's about, look at how quickly this restaurant industry comes together because we believe in this.
Yeah.
And we want to do things that, there's a lot of community-driven events in our restaurant scene anyway. So to be able to get this many people on board that quickly, just it's the reason I love St. Louis. That's why I am happy to be here doing what I'm doing, because I don't think you could get that kind of reaction in another city.
It is a lot of love and support. And it's crazy because when you first started, Love to Eat to Love, it was the main focus. At that time, you probably didn't even know that it was going to turn into 4 installments.
Yes.
And so now here you are years later, and these causes just keep kind of sparking up for you.
I mean, there's always going to be something.
Yeah.
And, it also has to, doing something like this on top of running my business, you have to make time for it. And it's just one of those things that I'm very much if something happens and this fits and it makes sense, why wouldn't we all want to do something about it, And especially when it's a situation where you're I don't know what to do about it, there's not really something directly. And so I feel like this hopefully will help in some way.
So I kind of want to go back to that day when you read the article, when you kind of found out what was going through your mind, because you've been in the hospitality industry for
last month.
Yeah.
What happened?
When that happened, because you've been in the hospitality industry, and obviously in any industry, there's bad apples and people that do bad things, but you probably, heard stories, been around it, but this is just really close to home, especially for us and other people. So
it was heartbreaking. I mean, one, it was somebody that so many of us were rallying behind, somebody who I really believed in their talent, and really wanted the place to be successful. I had gone multiple times. I enjoyed it tremendously. And not that I think you always know what somebody's behavior or personality is, but, it's always even more shocking when it's somebody that you just thinks is this very lovable teddy bear type personality. And then you hear and read these awful things. And it's just, I think especially, as some of us women and men who've experienced certain things, it's a jolt. Yeah. And it's kind of going back to all the Me Too stuff of you always have it in the back of your head. You always know things are happening that you don't know about. There's no way to not realize that. But to have such a graphic and intense and big thing happen and be documented. This wasn't a rumor going around. This wasn't, so it was difficult. It felt like a betrayal for a lot of people who had been so supportive. I have many friends that really went to bat for this person. I also immediately was the co-owner of the restaurant is, it's because then it's everybody backlashing saying, okay, never step foot in that place again. But then you take into account, well, that's not the only owner there. So it becomes a gray area and a complicated situation. And I certainly don't have all the answers. But how do you be supportive while also being like, but that's not okay? So
You're doing a great job.
It's really, but we all had pits in our stomachs,
Yes.
for many days. And many, I spent hours on the phone every day with different people, like just in shock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kind of how we felt too at that moment,
So just turning the leaf, what is next for Love to Eat to Love, or STL Wine Girl? Just what's, there's going to be more installments to look out for, which is exciting.
Yeah, wait for something crazy to happen in the world, but that doesn't take too long.
And maybe I don't know if there's even, not even that these things are, well, I guess there's negative connotations to them, obviously, but what, especially, I don't know, the holiday season is coming up, and what kinds of things maybe, I don't know what I'm asking you. I'm just saying there's other things coming, and with you already having these, are these going to be annual, are you going to reach out to everyone each month, and
I think
keep
that
it going?
For me, it's always it's kind of just how things unfold.
Mm-hmm.
We never want things to feel like, okay, we did this event or we did this month and then, oh, boop, it's over, yeah. So, we always try to find ways that we're continuing the message and, keeping the resources up on the websites and different things like that. Obviously, this is kind of a new chapter of Love to Eat because COVID, kind of all events stopped and everything. And like I said, the reason this isn't a actual physical event is because of the kind of the restaurant world we're living in right now. So I'm not really sure. Things that are growing and changing in my own business, obviously dictates things. But I think that above all else, I want it to be the overarching message that when stuff happens, if stuff happens, even if it's not a huge project like this one, this restaurant community is here and I'm here. And whatever we can do to try to help facilitate any sort of benefit to the community, I want people to see these projects as something that is really kind of just highlighting what everybody does all the time, because there's not a single restaurant on this list that I don't know does community driven and charity events all the time. It's not like this is the one thing they've signed on to. So I think it's about that. And moving forward, I can't predict what's going to happen in our crazy world, but I'm sure there will be something soon enough that will spark another thing.
Well, you are doing the damn thing. You have a lot of great honors. And is there a goal of an honor or title that you would like to be given or awarded in the future? Just for our listeners, just to pay attention to this one.
I don't know. I was recently inducted into Les Dames d'Escoffier, which was a very huge honor for me. That's something that I don't even know if I ever thought that would be something that would happen for me or whatnot. But I don't know. I think that because I try to keep what I do so flexible and fluid, I'm always oh, maybe I'll go down this path, or maybe, I'm even right now, I'm not doing a lot of public events. I'm not doing a lot of classes and things like that. A huge amount of my work is on the back end right now, consulting and writing and things like that. I don't think there's a James Beard in my future or anything like that. I'm not doing anything to that level. For me, it's just, I hope that I'm helping, just everyday people enjoy things more. And I hope that I'm helping to empower and help the restaurants that I really care about and that I not only consult for, but they're some of my best friends. And I am just as excited for their success, if not more, than my own success. So being part of that is what's really, worth it for me, I guess is the way to put it.
It all roots back to the hospitality.
It's a sickness, really.
Yes. Yeah. What else?
So you bring community, you bring causes, you bring food together. You have to have help in that process. Are you a one person team? Do you want to shout out any are you?
I am a one woman show.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
It's not that I don't have help when I do certain events, and in the Love to Eat events in the past, there's definitely been people that have helped. But yeah, ever mean, everything I do as STL wine girl and for the majority of Love to Eat is just me. I don't know if I'm glutton for punishment. I don't know. But I think that like that's part of, one, when you build a business around your own name and personality, it's hard to like certain things to siphon off. And I think that I'm proud of the fact that I do everything, but it's also like, but if there's a bad day, there's nobody to be like, hey, can you take care of this for me? Like, it's on me.
That's a challenge,
yeah.
right?
And like I said, with, chronic illness and stuff, like there's bad days and I'm like, okay. And, I do things to figure that out, but no, it's just me.
Wow. That's crazy because I have a
You're
great
like,
team.
I could not imagine that.
We have a great team and we're growing, and I love the fact of being able to scale and grow and like stuff like that. Now it does come with its own challenges as well, but I used to do a lot of stuff on my own, and like that can like, especially like these events where you're obviously not going to make $1 million off something. Like, it's not like, oh, I'm going to make all this money. It's just, I'm doing this because like I love what I'm doing and I'm doing it for a bigger purpose. But that makes it easier to stay up till 3 a.m. and work.
Right. And I think that like, even like the social media and marketing branch of my business, it's different because it's not like I started out for that. So like when I take on clients in that part, it's people that I'm close to, that I'm, so it's like, I wouldn't want somebody else, doing it, because that's my business in general. It is connecting with me. It is my, whatnot. And so for me to be able to like be the voice for some of these places that I desperately love and these people that I consider family, it would be hard for me to ask somebody like, oh, can you write these posts or whatever? Because I'd be like, oh, no. Like I have to,
to feel the same way about
right.
it.
And I think that also speaks to why like the way I love what I do is because it's all very personal connections.
Yeah. And that's probably why you're so successful, because you do have those loopholes where it's like you might not check in on a client for a month when you have somebody else on it and you're like, what's going on here?
Right.
And then
because of your relationship.
Yeah, like if you're my client, we're talking like multiple times a day, and it's not necessarily client stuff. It's just,
how are you?
Random, hey, this is where I ate yesterday.
Yeah.
And, we
try it.
Or really terrible memes or who knows.
That's awesome.
I mean,
so with just being an empowered woman and leader, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs?
So I always struggle with this because, again, with kind of accidentally starting a business, like there's never been an STL Wine Girl business plan or anything written. So I think for me, it's always just been, and I don't want to sound like cheesy with this, but like trusting your gut and trusting what you know how to do, what you're good at. Because like I am always like, oh my gosh, like, like some days you feel like a fraud in your own business because you're just like, why are people so okay with letting me do all this? Or,
I think that's all jobs, right?
Right. Like
imposter
syndrome. Right.
Yeah.
And no matter, I've been doing this multiple decades. I don't want to go into how many, but like and I know what I'm good at, but, I think that it's because I'm also very open about what I am not able to do. Like I never promise services that I don't think I can provide. Or if it's something that I'm like, I will learn that for you. I'm very open about, I'm starting from here, zero, know, but I think that for me, it's always just been being focused on what I know that I'm good at. For me, like the social aspect is a huge part of my business. When I moved back to St. Louis, I didn't know a single soul in the restaurant industry here. I mean, I grew up around here, but like I didn't know anybody. So I literally just started going around town, bellying up to the bar, being like, hi, this is who I am. And like, I've never worked, none of these people I've ever worked in their restaurants. I've never, that's not been, but the fact that I could do that, I think that's something like not everybody who wants to be an entrepreneur is an extrovert. Not everybody wants to go and shake hands all day and things. But I think that when you find what you're good at and you find what's comfortable for you, it can kind of flow. And for me, I just took the jump. Like I didn't plan anything out. I didn't, and I'm not saying that's for everybody. It is not. But I just decided that I was going to do this. And I think sometimes when you decide something's going to happen and there isn't really a backup plan, you kind of have to make it work. And again, I know that's not for everybody, but it's, for me, that's what works, is just, and being able to not, like I said, looking at my business now versus back then, I'm okay with it not being the same thing it was. Because I think sometimes we get caught up in this is the business I plan to have. These are the goals. This is where I want it to be in 3 years. This is where for me, it's more, okay, I didn't think this path would open up, but let's try this. And so I think me being open to change has really benefited me.
Yeah. And that like reminds me of like when you're setting those goals, you have to remember the why as to like why you're setting that. Like, is it always is it just you want to make more money? Okay, what's that going to bring you in life? Like, I think if you are open to change more so, then you're happier. You're willing to let things just go as they are, and you just take on that new challenge, and it works out. It always is going to work out some way.
And I think that, there are people that are just, the reason they want to be entrepreneurs is the business minded thing. They do want to grow. They do want to make money. They want, and that's, they're not about the like on the ground details. I am kind of the opposite. Like, I probably could have grown this into something much bigger over the last 14 years. But for me, it was like, but then it would lose that it's me and that I'm doing this, as me, and what, and then I also don't have anybody else that I have to go, okay, we're going to test out this path, or we, you know what I mean? Like, I don't have anybody with expectations on me where if I decide to like take a crazy risk, they're not like, what are you doing? Like, So I think that that's my biggest thing.
Yeah, that's nice, because like your business changes. If you didn't change your business for the last 14 years, you probably wouldn't be in business if you didn't adapt. Yeah. And especially like you said, like you started your business when Facebook had just came out. Right. Now Facebook's like, now it's Instagram, and you have to probably make TikToks for your clients and reels and videos, and it's just a whole different ballgame than just taking a picture. Now you need better cameras, lighting, all this stuff. Like, it's because it matters. It all matters, especially with food, because we literally go to restaurants because of how their Instagram looks. Like, it's just hands down. That's what we do. So
I always go to the Instagram, I look at like what has the restaurant posted of their food, and I'm like, I'm getting this tonight. Yeah, and then I look at what other people have posted, and like just the atmosphere itself, like again, like the architecture of like the place. Like,
so for the restaurant owners that listen to this,
it matters.
Yeah, it matters. It really does matter. And even the quality of the pictures too. Like, because sometimes you'll put a filter on it. You might have a chef that's like, oh, this filter, and then you can't see the colors and stuff like that. So I got off topic, but we just always love it.
Because that's what is so interesting with the restaurant industry, because believe me, most of these owners and stuff did not want to have social media. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have time for that too. Because they, especially independent restaurants, don't have the financial capability to hire somebody to do all this, and they're already working 80 hours a week, and they don't barely know how to use their camera with their like dirty thumbs and like bartender sticky fingers and different stuff like that. Like, so it's like it's this like love-hate relationship, right? Because like I think food is one of the most beautiful things that can be photographed. But then it's also like, I know so many restaurants that their food is so beautiful and it's so good, but they post like, their last post was like, 2020 or something. And you're like, oh my gosh, like, please.
Right.
But so I think that, and again, like even when I started my business, I didn't think my restaurants would be my clients. And so if I was still just doing like the events like I was, COVID would have killed me.
Right.
Because, and the fact that I do social media and consult is what saved me. I actually had to turn down clients during COVID because I couldn't take on more, because all you had was social media to reach out to your people, to your followers and such. So it's, I very much care about the Instagram accounts and things like that. I also, knowing how restaurants work and knowing the nitty gritty of every day, I feel for the restaurants that don't have the time for it. And, I think that I just wish more of them, I wish it was an easier thing for everybody to learn, because, you guys know you're constantly learning new things, and the ways that are successful on social media change like every 4 days. And like, you're having to keep up with so much.
Trends
And that's, it's a full-time job doing that. And they just don't have time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that, you know, food is one of the most beautiful things that, you know, we can capture. And I like, and not to be like a influencer hater, because that's not what I am, but like, I wish there were more influencers that instead of just showing me everything you ate when you went there, like, you know, take the attitude of like, I don't work in this business. I love food, but I don't know anything about it. And like, use that opportunity to teach, like learn and teach at the same time. You know, like I watch influencer reels that, you know, they are pronouncing the dishes wrong, or they're, you know, and like, it's not at the end of the day, but like what I would love to see is more of the like, let me take you on the journey with me. Like, I'm not an expert either. And like, let's talk to the, you know, let record the server teaching you how to say something or teaching you what something on the menu means. Yeah. Because like, that's my whole life is the discovery of food and wine. Like, I know a lot about wine, but that's one of the things that I love most about wine is that the more I know about wine, the more I realize I don't know about wine. And every vintage is different. And there's new, you know, regions and things like that. So I am absolutely okay with being somebody who doesn't know the answer and wanting to find that answer.
And you want somebody to provide you value. The reason you click follow on somebody's page is because they provide value. So what we try to do is like, we try to highlight people because people matter. So like, that's why we do a podcast, because of course, yeah, I could go take a video, but like, I want to talk to the chef or the owner or the entrepreneur, or even just, we've had so many different types of people on here on the show. Artists, like, yeah, like their painting looks great, but like, let's hear about how they got that creative
What's the story?
mindset.
There's a story behind everything, everything that's created.
Yeah.
And that's what I find. And that's why like I love wine and different things, is because there's story to all of it. And chefs, you know, chefs, some of them they don't want to chat so much, but there are a lot of people that just want to share why they love it or the ingredients they're excited about, and, you know, what they're hoping more of the guests will get into. They're trying to introduce new things. And I think like there's such like every restaurant and every employee of every restaurant's journey is so different that I never like run out of things that I like want to talk about with them, and I think that that's where, you know, social media and everything could be so valuable for those things, because, you know, food, art, anything creative is telling a story. And, you know, and sometimes even as the recipient of that, you don't always know why they did these things, or people don't know that dish, even though, yes, it got put together right now, but that's actually 6 days of work to get to those components that make up that dish.
And even if you can't talk to the chef or act like your waiters and waitresses know so much too.
Absolutely.
Like they all, like you always ask them like, what's your favorite drink or what's your favorite, like we'll just ask the, you know, server, just pick something. I'm like, okay, tell us why. And like then you're having a conversation and they will tell you like the backstory of like the preparation, and then you're eating it and you appreciate it so much more.
You're paying attention to those elements that you've, you know, that, and that's why like I'm a super geek about all this stuff, because I take forever to eat like dinners, because I'm just obsessed with all of it. And I look for all the techniques, and I just love it. So,
and we said this on Friday night when we were in New York, we like ate at a very expensive place. It was like $400. But the reason we justified the cost is because we were sitting at the chef's counter and we saw how fast they were working. Yep. And I'm like, so do you guys take any breaks? They're like, no,
absolutely not.
Can't even go to the bathroom.
We get here at 2, we leave at 2 in the morning, you know.
And this was like all like hand, like little dishes. But like if we would have sat outside on the patio, I might have been like, why was that $400? But like then you're inside, you're watching it happen. You're like, okay. $400.
It's sweat, and they're like, you better get this out or it's not going out. We're like, oh, like you do.
That's like the blessing and the curse of open kitchens. Is like you guys, you know, like non-restaurant people get to see like how much is going on in there. Yeah. But then also it's like, but then you're under the microscope of everybody seeing everything that's
you're
going
like,
on.
Yay. They got their like little tweezers.
You can't say anything.
Yeah, you got to be very chef.
It's probably fun for them because they can see people's faces though. That's probably a benefit. And we thought it was cool. We were like, that was like amazing to sit right there. Cool. Same with like Indo and all these places where you can sit right there and just watch them.
If I could sit, like that's my, like I don't even like sitting at tables in restaurants. Like I want to sit at the bar. I want to, unless I have like a, you know, bigger group. Cause like I just, again, I want to engage all the time and ask questions and not be like annoying, but you know what I mean? I want to just see the process because I don't know. I'm a
Big bar girl.
big dork is what I am. But no, it's.
I have one more.
I think that it's. I think it's a really interesting industry that just, it clearly captures people's attention, and people want, it's like this mystery world, which we're all like, it's not as cool as you guys think. But then we're also like, no, it is really cool.
But it's amazing at the same time.
Right. It's pure chaos. Like we're always like, if you work in this world, like there's something wrong with you.
And that's like what one of the guys in New York said. He's like, we chose this life.
Right.
And I was like, there it is. And there it is.
100%. So obviously this STL bucket list show, we like bucket list spots around town. You have a huge list of places that you probably love, but is there like any couple specific
Tell
spots?
us your faves, and then tell us like where you are dying to go to. I think that would be fun.
Oh, I'm gonna get in trouble here. Okay.
I knew that you have all these relations, but like just a few places you love. It could even be a park, could even be a coffee shop.
Like if your friends do come in to St. Louis, where are you taking them?
Well, everyone knows that like my first stops are always going to be like Miley and Nudo because I'm very close with that family and I love their food. And you can find me at the bar at Miley for like 10 hours straight, just sitting in the little cubby working and hanging out. I love what's happening in Fox Park. I love like Little Fox and Lucky and all of that. I have started revisiting Cinder House lately because the wine team there is incredible and good friends of mine. I was going to bring that
up. They had 3 that one night when they did that dinner.
Yes.
They had 3 of them, 3 sommeliers in there.
And they're all amazing,
we did a tasting dinner
talented people there. And so it's always fun to go there. I know I'm gonna like miss I love sitting at the bar at Louis. I am very excited for his new restaurant that's coming. I guess I have to say Casa Don Alfonso too, because like I've helped them out a lot and I spend a lot of time there. Their wine list is also amazing. I don't know, like Olive and Oaks concepts. There are times it's funny because when people ask me like, where should we go? I always have like a list of too many things. And then when it's like me and my friends, like restaurant friends, and we're like, oh, we have a night off, and we're like, where should we go? And we're like, where do we eat here? What do we do? Like, it's like all of a sudden all of that is like thrown out of
the
my
window.
brain.
Yeah.
And it's hard to like think because there's so many.
True.
Right.
Like we have a couple spots where like we love that we'll always go here. And Nudo was like one of them I wanted last night when I got home.
When we got home from New York, I'm like, oh, the one on Del Mar was closed.
It was
Mondays, that Monday.
Well, and I think like that's the other thing is like, a lot of times what I'll try to do is ask people, what neighborhood is good for you, because like that helps me because that's a big St. Louis thing too. It's like, well, what area are you going to be in? Because that helps me like,
right.
And then, or if you're price point or cuisine or whatnot. But there's just so like, I love that there's so many great options that I can't even like possibly say all of the ones I love.
And there's great ones in every single neighborhood. Like,
yes.
Every single neighborhood has great ones.
Where are you dying to go?
So I haven't been to the new wine bar.
Sippy?
Yes,
I
haven't been there yet.
I was going to ask you about that one.
I haven't been down there yet.
I've been twice in like 1 week. I went.
So you recommend?
I do recommend. Yes,
So
I have the
cute. It's
Union
nice.
Loafer's bread. I get my olives with the balsamic and
Very
oil.
small menu, but like the people, the staff were amazing.
It's adorable in there. The vibe, the back patio is so cute. I loved it. And actually that was my first time trying natural wines.
Oh, okay.
So I was going to ask you about that. Like, do you
it's a huge trend right now, and I like. I don't like all natural, just like anything. I don't like all of everything. I think it's important conversation and such that's happening in the wine world right now. I think that it's never going to all move that way. It just isn't. Yeah. But I think the fact that like there's really a scene for that and an appreciation for that and what that really means is really cool. And I think it's because again, it's help educating people what these processes are. So I support it 100%.
Go there. Try it out.
I haven't been to the Galina's new spot either, the Bistro La Floraison. I haven't been there yet.
I don't know that one.
It's the old Bar La Frere.
Oh, yes.
That
yes. Mm-hmm.
And then obviously I'm excited for Bar More to open up. Like clearly that little pocket right there.
Yeah.
Like, when Matt McGuire opens his like tavern there and then the Bar Moro and
Yeah, Clayton's getting spoiled right now.
yeah, it's going to be like that street you can just hang out, which I love. That's also like stuff I love is like, especially from living in cities, like I like there to be like a random like block that I can just like pop around different places.
Yes.
That's what
that is the best.
Yeah, because like you're not like driving all over,
Right.
but there's like different experiences to be had.
Yeah.
And I like that.
Yeah, me too.
That's why I like Ben's
Mm-hmm.
restaurants over there. Like he has
Right.
all
All in
those
that
places
neighborhood.
all in one block.
Right.
And it's like literally it's just a corner. Like you created a neighborhood.
Right,
Food, like
exactly.
restaurants create neighborhoods.
There was nothing
Yeah.
there before they started building all of that. So, I'd like to see more of things like that come together. But I'm sure that there are other restaurants that I haven't
So
that I'm dying to go. But
Yeah.
So last bit, and then we'll wrap up. Tell us about the wines that you brought today.
Oh,
'Cause
okay.
I did have you bring some wines.
so I just picked a couple that are. So this is actually a natural wine.
Okay.
So since that. Which was a gift from the sommelier at Casa Don Alfonso that I haven't actually yet popped open, but I've had it by the glass before. And I like really funky wines. Like I also like my favorite red wine is like Chateauneuf de Pop. And it's one of those red wines where they will like literally describe it as like barnyard or whatever. Like I like funky wines. So I'm a big fan of that. And then these two are actually from a really good winemaker friend of mine named Andre Mack, who is based out of Brooklyn, but he makes Oregon wines. And this is Gamay Noir. So Gamay is what makes Beaujolais in France. And he's known for making like Pinot and such. So this is kind of a new venture for him. And Beaujolais Gamay wines are ones, especially heading into holiday season. That's like one of the types of wines that I always tell people for like Thanksgiving and such, because a Thanksgiving plate is like a sommelier's worst nightmare because it's like every different possible flavor, texture. So there's like some wines where like, okay, my default is like just drink champagne with everything. And then it's like rosé but Beaujolais and Gamays.
That is so funny. Mine's cab. I'm like, give me a cab with everything.
Yeah. So these are all ones that are like these are about to be opened probably sooner rather than later this week. But that I'm really excited about.
I love that.
And you get a lot of gifts from people. Like they'll just send you
I
stuff
am
to
very
try.
fortunate to get to try a lot of cool
just
stuff.
send some my way. I'll help you
I know.
if you need it.
I'm like, I always joke that, especially when I'm getting a lot of shipments of wines because I help write tasting notes and such.
Yeah.
I like the UPS or FedEx guy because you have to sign for alcohol. And like there was this period of time where I was getting like a shipment like every Wednesday, and he would always somehow come at like 8 or 9 in the morning. And restaurant people are not 8 or 9 in the morning people. Yeah. And I'm like, I hope I'm this guy's story that like he goes home to his wife and is like, this like crazy chick has to sign for booze every Wednesday and she looks a hot mess. And I hope he's like made up a whole story of what my life is and why I have this always.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I said, it's fun to be able to like geek out on anything and everything. So when friends, send me new stuff, I get really hyper excited.
Oh yeah. That's the best.
Cool.
Getting gifts in the mail.
All right. Where can people find you to support you?
So you can find me at stlwinegirl.com and on all platforms, STL Winegirl. And then for the Love to Eat, Eat to Love project, it is lovetoeateattolove.com. And again, same name for platforms. Other than that, you can pretty much find me sitting at the bar at any restaurant in town.
I love it.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for coming on. And what you're doing is inspiring enough to where we just really wanted to talk to you and get the word out and help you spread the word. And we do a podcast every Wednesday. And like I said, it's just different. We try to be very, not strategic, but we try to capulate all of St. Louis in our podcast. Like you said, you don't want to just highlight just the top things. You want to just find those like little nooks and crannies of the city and really just do a good job at that. So you guys can listen in every Wednesday. Right here at Half Coast Studios. And of course, our friends over at Regional Arts Commission of St. Louis for allowing us to do the podcast, because it does cost money to record podcasts, and it's a lot of time and effort that goes into it. And of course, our friends over at Four Hands. So keeping our thirst quenched and some wine on the table and everything like that. So STL Wine Girl.
Thank you,
is it
Angela.
Angie?
It's Angie, Angela, whatever.
Okay.
Everybody calls me everything.
And thank you for coming in. And guys, please go to these restaurants. Like really, that's the easiest way to support is literally you're gonna eat somewhere.
Yes.
Eat at one of these places.
Yeah, you're going to be dining out and going to bars, and so just hop on the list and see, where you can go that day to just help. Every little bit helps. So
that's right.
It's amazing.
Well, thank you guys for listening again to the STL Bucket List Show. We will see you next week.